Alright, in 79 years of NBA Finals basketball, thousands of players have stepped onto that floor. Legends, Hall of Famers, the greatest names the sport has ever produced. So here's a question that sounds impossible. What if I told you that last night, the youngest player to ever score in a finals game wasn't Magic, wasn't Kobe, wasn't LeBron? It was a 20-year-old rookie coming off the bench. His name is Dylan Harper, and most casual fans had barely heard it before last night. But in game 1 of the finals, he didn't just play, he rewrote a record that had stood in various forms for decades. So this is the story of how a kid who can't legally rent a car in some states just outaged every legend in finals history. This is Game is Culture. Real quick before we get into it, if you like breakdowns that actually show the math instead of just yelling takes at you, go hit subscribe. It's free and it genuinely helps, so click it. First, let's establish what he actually did. Dylan Harper scored 16 points in game 1 of the NBA Finals, and he did it at 20 years and 93 days old. That makes him the youngest player in the entire history of the league to score 15 or more in a finals game. Not one of the youngest ever. And to understand how absurd that is, you have to understand who he passed. Because this isn't a list of role players. To be the youngest ever to score 15 in a finals, you have to be younger than every prodigy who ever reached this stage. Younger than Magic Johnson, younger than Kobe Bryant, younger than LeBron James. So Harper didn't sneak onto a list, he climbed to the very top of it. Here's the actual leaderboard. Harper sits at 20 years and 93 days. Just behind him, the legendary Daryl Dawkins from 1977. Then Tyler Hero from the Bubble Finals. So the 3 youngest scorers in finals history, and Dylan Harper is now number 1 on that list. And consider the company on that all-time youngest list, because the names that usually own finals records are the immortals. But to be the youngest scorer ever, Harper had to be younger in his finals debut than Magic Johnson was, younger than Kobe Bryant was, younger than LeBron James was the first time they scored on this stage. Those legends got here at 21 or 22. Harper got here at 20. And at this level, a full year of age is an eternity. And there's a poetic twist hiding in the name, because a Harper has lived in finals history before. Dylan's father, Ron Harper, won 5 championships, first riding shotgun with Michael Jordan and then alongside Kobe and Shaq. So the last time a Harper mattered in June, he was collecting rings. Now, decades later, the son walks into the finals and breaks a record none of those legends ever held. That isn't just a good rookie, that's basketball royalty arriving right on schedule. But here's what makes it more than a trivia stat. He was efficient. Because plenty of young players chuck up shots and stumble into points. Harper didn't. He scored his 16 on just 10 field goal attempts. He made 6 of them. That is 60% shooting in the most pressurized environment in the sport as a rookie off the bench. So this wasn't reckless youth. This was poise. And the contrast with the stars is brutal, because on the same night, the headliners were a mess. Brunson shot under 39%, Wembanyama under 29%, Fox 23%, and the 20-year-old rookie 60%. So the most efficient scorer in this finals game was the youngest player on the floor. And he didn't just score, he grabbed 8 rebounds too. So in 28 minutes, off the bench, in the NBA Finals, a 20-year-old gave San Antonio 16 points and 8 boards on elite efficiency. That is a real two-way contribution, not a cameo. And the way he got his points told you he belonged, because Harper didn't hide in the corner and wait for garbage time. He attacked, he pushed the ball in transition, he got downhill into the paint, and he finished through contact like a veteran. There was no hesitation and no rookie nerves, just a 20-year-old in the NBA Finals playing like he had already done it 100 times. That poise at that age is the rarest part of all. So how is a 20-year-old even in this position? Because the Spurs made a bet on youth, on talent, on the future arriving early. They surrounded Victor Wembanyama with the youngest, most fearless supporting cast in the league, and Harper, a top pick just months ago, was the centerpiece of that bet. So when the finals arrived, San Antonio didn't shrink their rotation. They trusted their kids. And look at the core that bet produced. Wembanyama, 22, and already the best defender alive. Stephon Castle, 21, a starter, and now Dylan Harper, 20, making history. 3 players, none older than 22, all playing major minutes in the NBA Finals. That is almost unheard of. So Harper's record isn't a fluke that happened in a vacuum. It's the loudest signal yet of what San Antonio is building. A team so young that one of its bench players just became the youngest scorer in the history of the finals, and it barely cracked the headlines. Now let's zoom out, because this connects to something bigger. Because these Spurs are already one of the youngest teams to ever reach the finals. Add a 20-year-old rewriting record books off the bench, and you start to see it. This isn't a team that snuck in. It's a team whose stars haven't even started aging yet. So every record like Harper's is really a countdown to how scary they become. And here's the number that frames it all. 20 years and 93 days. That's how old Dylan Harper was when he passed every legend in NBA history for the youngest final scoring game ever. Most players that age are still in college. He was carrying bench minutes in the biggest series on earth. Real quick though, if you've made it this far, you've really got to hit subscribe. I'm not going to beg, but I am going to ask. So hit it and I'll wait. So what does a night like this actually mean? It means the Spurs have a second, maybe a third star already arriving. Because in a series where their veterans and their MVP candidate both struggled, a 20-year-old rookie was one of their most efficient, most reliable scorers. That's the kind of contribution that wins you a game you have no business winning, and San Antonio almost did. And think about the timeline this sets up, because most franchises wait years just for a single young star to arrive. San Antonio has stacked 3 of them on top of each other, all at once. So a record like Harper's isn't the ceiling for this team, it's the floor. It is the worst this core will ever be on the biggest stage the sport has, and that should keep the rest of the league up at night. And for the rest of the league, it should be terrifying, because Harper isn't a finished product. He's a 20-year-old in his first year, still learning the speed of the NBA, and he's already good enough to make finals history. So the version of him in 3 or 4 years, fully grown into his game, might be a genuine problem for everyone. But let's be honest about the other side of it, because for all the history, his team still lost. Harper finished a -5 on the night, so while he was efficient, the Spurs were still outscored when he was on the floor. And 16 points off the bench, as beautiful as it was, didn't change the final result. The record is real, the win was not. And one game is one game. A 20-year-old can drop 16 efficient points tonight and disappear under playoff pressure tomorrow. That's the nature of young players. So this was a historic debut, not a guarantee. The challenge now is doing it again, with a season on the line and a defense game planning specifically for him. So I'm going to leave it with you. Is Dylan Harper's record the first sign of the next great superstar, or just a beautiful one-night moment from a kid who got hot off the bench? Because the difference is the difference between a good team and a dynasty. So tell me down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe. We're in a race to 1,000 subscribers, so please join the family.